I don't know if we can cuss on here.
Yeah, no, you can cuss. It's all right. We can't just, let's not celebrate it, but we can say some bad words.
But yeah, no, my name is Felipe Gomez. I'm from Colombia. I've been here in Austin 13 years now. It's been good. In the U.S., 22 years. 23 years going on that. Came here in 2001.
Right on.
Yeah. But yeah, man, it's been a fun, wild ride. I've been a full-time artist for close to 3 years now.
Right on.
After I quit my job. Things are good, man. I'm excited to be here.
What was that feeling like to quit your job and finally commit to being a full-time artist?
Dude, it was so good. I was working a corporate job, did that for a year. I knew I wanted to quit, like 6 months into it, 3 months. I didn't like the people I worked with. It was a job that wasn't for me. It was, I didn't study finance, and I got this entry-level job in finance through this company called Accenture, and we were working at Facebook.
Okay.
So it was kind of like applying the money that came in to pay for the ads, make sure the ads were running. Cash application, I think it was what it was called.
Gotcha.
But I didn't study it, and I studied philosophy. Got a degree in environmental science before that, and digital media innovation, which was what I had the most credits for. Get way more into that after, but it was great, man. I quit my job finally after a year of being at Facebook. I really felt that it wasn't for me. I did a lot of soul searching, really kind of digging into what I wanted to do with my life, and obviously, as I've always done, read a lot of books. I remember, I think at the point, Siddhartha was a good one. I don't know if you've ever read it.
I haven't. I need to.
It's so good. It's like 100 pages, easy read. It's kind of like about figuring your way out through life, and the different instances that happen to you, and like the different like modes of like greed and different things that come up in your life and make you a good moral human, and how are you gonna move forward. But anyways, I quit and I created my art studio, saved enough money for 3 months, and built an art studio in my garage, my friend's garage. I was renting a room at his house. And man, it was amazing. COVID hit after that, and I was just set. Yeah, just kept working in the studio. Then I got a job at my friend's restaurant, just kind of changing my whole life and trying to figure things out, and like easing into being a full-time artist. So I did that for a little bit, did full-time art Monday through Friday. Didn't consider that that full-time art. I wanted the whole thing,
Yeah.
But man, it finally happened sometime after that, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's the best choice I've ever made.
God, what a commitment, right? To believe in yourself enough to make that jump, to say, I'm not in a place where I'm content anymore with my living situation, right? I'm going to this job where I'm not necessarily happy anymore. And nobody is going to make the changes for me that need to happen for me to find that happiness I'm looking for. So to say, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to probably lose the stability that I had, right? And that's always scary. But to believe in yourself enough to commit to that jump and say, you know what, for better or worse, I'm going to try. And if it works, fantastic. This is everything I ever wanted. And if it doesn't work out the way I see it, then at least I know that I went out there and I made the intent to make it real.
Exactly. At least you tried.
Yeah.
But with anything, I think that if you really want something, you should give it your all. You should go get it. Like, why not? Life is short.
So what did the first few months look like for you when you made that decision?
Yeah, man. I mean, it is absolutely scary, and you have your family, your friends kind of being like, is this what you really want to do? Are you sure about this? Especially, I'm sure everyone has different interactions with their family. For me, it was like that. I kind of got questioned. But it is kind of, I just want to talk a little bit about the jumping in and going beyond the fear. Like, it is something that you have to dive in, because that was, like I was saying, life is short, and if you don't really believe in yourself, then you're not going to do it. And at some point, you just have to believe in yourself so much that you're willing to do anything, like live through anything, eat beans and rice, like whatever it takes to make your dream happen. And sometimes that means like you're by yourself in the studio for 17 hours a day and you continuously do it and you're not hanging out with people, but people know you're grinding, people know you're getting better, and you kind of, obviously, you got to maintain communications with your friends and loved ones, but yeah, you got to take sacrifices. For me, when I did it, it was pretty easy. I had quit my job, and I told myself, all right, I got 3 months, and I have X amount of money for 3 months of rent, food, whatever. Let's go. I need to do something about this and like really get back into being able to be a full time artist. Or not back into it, just I need to push myself into that space. So, man, I just started teaching myself the fundamentals of art again, kind of lowered my ego completely. Like, yes, I have been doing the wood stuff for 4 or 5 years at that point. Yes, I had sold little pieces. Yes, I loved art. I was in my process, right? But still, it was a moment for me in which I was like, okay, I am moving into this career. Let's start over. So I took a bunch of online painting courses, like fundamentals of art. I was thinking about learning about the perspective, light, shadow, hues, values. Like, how are these used in a very like primary, uh, beginner's manner, you know? And that was kind of my everyday for 3 months. I would wake up, go in the studio. I treated it like a 9 to 5 job. I think that helped me out a lot, is like having that like corporate experience and that way of waking up in the morning. Just like, okay, wake up, eat breakfast, drink my coffee, and go to work. For me, work was now not the office, it was the garage. And it was great. I was very diligent about being in there. And I stayed in there till, I don't know, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. sometimes. Wake up, do my morning routine, and hit it back hard again the next day.
God, that's
But,
incredible, man.
yeah, man, it takes a lot.
Yeah, the discipline to be able to convince yourself that you need to get up and you need to do these things, right? Because nobody's telling you, hey, Felipe, you got to get up, you got to go work, you got to get this done. It's yourself being accountable to you and the goals that you have in mind and what you want to accomplish. And that is the biggest challenge. Because, yeah, very similar to you when I like first went out on my own from my corporate job, accountability was like the number one thing. You got to get up. You got to, at that point, I was trying my best not to work from home, right? Because I was working off the laptop. So I would leave my house to make sure that I was in a space where I felt that I was being more conducive to creating work rather than being tempted by all the things that are going on in your house, right? Sometimes that are easy
Right.
to get sidetracked. But to say, no, this is what I believe in, this is what I'm going to accomplish. And for better or worse, I'm going to put in everything that I have every day to make sure that this thing turns into reality is, in my opinion, the only way that you can get what you
Absolutely.
want.
Dude, 100%. I think there's something to putting everything on the line for it. Because it's like you had your the route that you went to college, you got the job, you did that, and you exited. So then, this is for me. This was my only option. Like I chose, I could have. I mean, yeah, of course, I could have gone back to marketing jobs, but do I really want to do that? I already went through the physical, like struggle of like or mental struggle of being like, no, I don't want to be stuck in a job in which like I'm not really developing myself and growing and being a free human and a free agent throughout my everyday.
That's good.
Yeah.
Especially just the awareness to know that, like, okay, I've hit my cap and I'm no longer growing. Because that's what we're supposed to do, right? Grow. It's
Right.
like we're just like the flowers. We need to grow. So if we're no longer growing in that pot, it's time to get out of that pot, go to a bigger pot, and figure out where you can grow and go through the discomfort and go through the challenges and
Right.
believe in yourself. So, okay, what was your first big like project after you kind of became independent and you were on your own that really gave you a boost of confidence where you're like, you know what, I did make the right decision?
Excuse me. Yeah. So I did this. I had this whole dream of building out like a life-size wooden piece, and the first big piece was this piece I called Divine Edification, and it was a woman's body. It's gestural, very anatomically correct. I went very deep into it. I think it took me about 8 months to do it. I had my drawings, my designs. Like, I think I held on to it for 8 to 9 months, and it was prior to it. But in those 3 months, I was like, all right, I'm gonna finish this, and this is gonna be my first piece going back out into the world and kind of my first release. And I gave it my all, dude. I was in there every day, day in and day out, just working through that. And after that, COVID happened. So that was kind of a blessing for me. I was just able to stay in the studio, read art books, kind of go into a cave, which the cave was the garage.
It's good though.
Yeah. It was amazing. Yeah, man, it was perfect. It worked out is very well. After COVID, I had a group of friends which I had met through some art shows, and that's when I was able to release two pieces that I had worked on. We kind of put together this art collective called Unknown Collective,
Okay.
and that I used some of my previous marketing work because I had done a lot of events marketing. I organized a bunch of environmental festivals in my 20s. I kind of had this idealistic dream of changing the world through sustainability.
That's good. That's not, it's still possible.
It's still possible. It's still possible. I can do it in a different way through my art, and I think that's what I've realized as I've gotten older. Is like you don't have to change the world and be so pragmatic within like those specific boundaries of whatever industry you're trying to change. Sustainability is something that I can access through art. But yeah, man, in my 20s, I organized this festival, my first festival for the community college. There was a solar association. They wanted to do this whole speech thing with like, I don't know, for 100 people. I was like, why don't we make this big? Why don't we get some sponsors? Why don't we get like yoga, bands, artists? Like, let's get the community involved. And everyone was like, yeah, that's amazing. Who's going to take the lead on that? And I mean, for me, it was just a graphic design internship at the time. That's actually when I first started kind of like teaching myself about graphic design and drawing to kind of, I wanted to create this brand, but I'll tell you about that later. Yeah, so I ended up going to meetings with like the mayor's team, Will Wynn at the time. It was like 2013. And I was in meetings with Austin Energy, and I was this like young kid, like getting all these sponsorships. And for me, that was a big deal, like getting $30,000 sponsorship.
Yeah, it's a huge deal.
Super into it. Got a bunch of drink sponsors, blah blah blah. Yeah, man. So that I think that the environmental festivals really helped me in my professional development. It helps you wear lots of hats, like whether it's like dealing with clients, dealing with permits, insurance, sponsorship. Like, how do you put together a sponsorship packet? How do you go and talk to someone important that you want to be at your event? Like, do kind of like a little bit of public speaking through that. And after that, I did the same thing. I went to school at Texas State, helped out with Texas Wild Rice Festival, which is an amazing experience. And I did the same thing with them. We got the mayor to be our keynote. Lots of community-oriented workshops teaching people about the sustainability of the river, why it matters to keep the wild rice alive, and the impact that we have on it. How do we make sure that all these endangered species are able to live there because of the wild rice? And the Austin one was, it was really funny. It was around energy. So we had like a keynote from like someone talking about fracking, and then after that was someone talking about like being against fracking, and the person that was talking about fracking was only a sponsor. Anyways, not to get into it, but yeah, man. So after COVID, I used all of this knowledge, which was amazing, and I think that kind of how we were talking about earlier of like being able to move with the punches and create a better life. Kind of like if the pot's not big enough for you, everyone creates. People always say like, "Oh, I'm not an artist. I would never be able to do that." But everyone lives their life in a creative manner, and that is beautiful. The fact that you can see that this pot is not big enough for you, and that you need to attain certain skills to be able to work for a different job or do something different or create a new business, like that in itself is using your creative muscle. And as you move with that, I used all of my skills and all my contacts, and we organized the show called Too Poor for Canopy. It was beautiful. Ended up selling like $17,000 worth of art.
God, that's
for
fantastic.
artists in, I think it was 1 day or 2 days. Right after COVID, everything had been shut down. This was like the first event. I called my friends at When We're What. They're amazing people here in Austin. They gave us a big shout out.
Love that.
And yeah, we had a lot, like thousands of people come by, and Artists were able to pay their rent, buy groceries. We had people crying afterwards. It was a beautiful event in which so many of us met, and we all grew from that. I mean, I was able to meet so many more people in the community. It was beautiful for me in so many ways, so many regards. And Unknown Collective, we just kind of did it for the people, and every artist got to keep everything that they sold. We didn't take anything. I showed my art, and that was kind of like my debut
That's awesome.
in a way. I didn't expect it or think about it that way, but in retrospect, I think that was a really good thing for me. I think we were talking about earlier. We were talking about what were some of these impactful moments. I think it was that. It was like kind of you don't realize that all of these skills and all of these things that you have done in the past can build up and can be used within the art world or whichever world you're in, really. It's just about kind of using your skills in a, I don't know, an objective manner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it
yeah.
sounds like you were really trying to just be an agent for positive change, right? I think at any given moment, we're either the catalyst for something positive or something negative in somebody else's life. And if we can figure that out and always try to be a catalyst for something positive, then we're creating these positive cycles where we can then sprout new ideas, sprout growth, sprout change, sprout innovation. But as long as, like you said, if we're aware that, okay, we are creators, we can constantly create something good, something bad. And if we focus on being the catalyst of something good, then, for example, like what you did right with this event, you weren't necessarily focused on what am I going to get out of it. You were like, hey, let me call my friends, let me call my contacts, let me call my colleagues. And at a time where everybody was probably so sick of being inside of their house, everybody was financially strained because COVID hurt so many. To be able to bring that to the table and say, hey, this is how we're going to come out and this is what we're going to do. And then everybody to thrive together, for the community to come together as a collective. Exactly. And to support everyone, and everybody felt inspired. I think that's something beautiful. And yeah, you were, again, that catalyst, that agent of positive growth. I was
part of it. Yeah, I was part of it with my two friends that we created the collective with. But yeah, man, I appreciate that. You're right. It is beautiful to keep in mind how do we always move in a way that's not selfish? How do we move in a way that is helping other people, uplifting your friends? Like, I think I posted something the other day about always speak well about your friends in rooms they're not in. If you can't give your friend, if you can't take a gig, pass it on. Just kind of always figure out a way that you can support people. I think it all kind of goes back to community in a sense. Like, artists, yeah, we're independent businesses, but in reality, it comes back to community. It's always, I think it always goes back to that. And how can you have an impact on people? Because in the end, that's what you're trying to do, right? That's what we're trying to do, is spread a message, spread a specific experience or concept that we want to convey through a painting, through a wood sculpture, through a work of like a sculpture of marble, any medium. We're just trying to convey an experience. So then you need to be connected to the community and just kind of do things for everyone. Go support your friends' art shows, etc. And I think that's how it works. Like any movement, I think I was at this 50 years of hip hop talk the other day for South by, and we're kind of talking about that after the event of how Beat Boy started, the Beat Boy movement, and graffiti and hip hop. And it was just like friends who got together. They were spray painting, and then some friends were dancing and doing the b-boy dance. And it was like, all right, like, how do we all just come together and like, all right, you'll be the b-boy and you'll be this, and then we'll get to do battles. And kind of like things grew from that. And it was everyone kind of always uplifting each other. I think there's a lot of beauty in uplifting our friends. I think there's enough bread for everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, there is, for sure. And that's why we have two hands, right? One to help yourself and one to help others. That's the whole point of that. And so, man, it goes a long way. So, yeah, to focus on community, to build those relationships, to grow that, and not, again, just only focus on yourself. It elevates everybody and the art around us. And people appreciate that, because it is hard to be an artist. It's not easy. You have to go in and, like you said, spend countless hours on a project that you're madly in love with, because that's the only way you get it done. Like, you have to love what you're creating.
100%.
And so then when you go out and you share that with the world, you're like, please love it back. And
Right.
if they don't, you're just like, oh, why? And you try not to beat yourself up about it, because at the end of the day, it's not like you're creating for the outside world, right? You're creating because of the passion that you have and what you want to express. But it is still nice when people say, hey, that's rad, that's great, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
There's a sense of validation that's not necessarily needed, but appreciated when you spend that much time on your craft and what you care about. And so it's important, yeah, to not only help yourself, but help others and make sure that they're getting the awareness and they're getting the flowers, and people are saying all the hard work that they've been doing and being able to admire it or appreciate it, ask questions, connect with the artist. And that's really the biggest thing, right? Is like, while we're here in this podcast or in this space, it's like, how can we feature more of the artist's stories? Because your work is fantastic, it's beautiful, but I want people to fall in love with you.
Yeah, who we are. Like,
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that. All the artists that you've already shown here, everyone's been just very prolific in their own way. But besides that, they're good people.
Yeah.
And they're good artists, but they're good people. And I really appreciate that. But you're right. It's really about showing up for everyone else. And I was kind of thinking about the fact that art, as we're creating it, some people might think of it as like a selfish thing, as like this like personal ego-driven thing, but it doesn't have to be that. You can go into yourself, you can create this thing that you want to share with the world, and it can also be a source of inspiration to show it and to talk to people about your art and your process and how happy it makes you, what it does for you, and what it does to change who you are and how it affects your everyday, how it affects your perspective, and how it affects how you interact with people, your friends, and the people at a grocery store, and how you look at the world in a different way. There's so much beauty to that, and that's what I really enjoy about creating a piece and then taking it to a show. Like the show here for the opening we had was amazing.
Appreciate you.
Had so many good conversations that night. I think it's there's a lot of beauty in that. And you're right, it is good to have this like feedback from people that say, yeah, oh my God, I love the work, it's rad. I connected with it at a specific level. That's very necessary for an artist. Like, and it's good, but I think, oh my God, why am I blanking on his name? The creative act.
Rick Rubin.
Rick Rubin, yeah. I
Yeah.
think he talks about the fact that you should be creating for the audience last.
Yeah.
You should definitely be creating for yourself first.
100%.
And it's kind of like all these famous philosophers have said for the longest time. I think it was not Kierkegaard. He's a philosopher from the Frankfurt School of Thought. Oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. Anyways, he talks about the essence of creation and how when you create something with the desire for it to be for yourself, then you're truly creating art. When you create something with the desire of this ego-driven self or profit, then you're creating a product. And I agreed with that for such a long time, and then I thought back to it, and I still agree with that, but I would change it.
Okay.
And it's not Kierkegaard. Oh my God, it'll come back to me. I studied in my philosophy of art class, and I don't agree with that because back then, like, artists had patrons, and now we have to sell art. I think selling art is part of our business. We are businesses on our own, and there's so much to focus. We have a lot of overhead. We have advertising. We have the marketing. We have client communications. We have to do the emailing, the finances. Like, it's literally everything if you want to be a successful full-time artist.
Yeah.
And you should make some pieces that you know can sell because you want to continue being a full-time artist, and you need to have something that pushes you, and something that enables you to live your everyday, buy your groceries and pay your rent, and then also create the works that you feel you're called to make. So that's the one thing I would say to him. Oh my God, what's his name? Forgetting.
That's right. You're gonna remember, and you'll text me, and we'll add it in the captions
We'll add
below,
it in
bro. No
there.
worries.
Yeah.
But it's true. No, it is. It's nice to have a balance and to understand that, okay, if I do this style of pieces, I'm going to be able to move through 5 of them, and then I'm not stressing about how I'm going to make that next paycheck, and then I can create with a clear conscience that's not cluttered with I need to make $500 off this piece that I'm working on right now, because that changes the entire fabric of what you're creating. Because when you're creating just out of the sheer inspiration, we'll call it, that you have from within to make something, it doesn't matter how long it takes. It doesn't matter if you start for 5 hours right now and you take a week off and you come back to it. You're just doing it because you're in love with the process of it and the love of the creation. And if somebody sees that and they fall in love with it, the reward is 10 times better, in my opinion, because you're like, yes, you saw what I was trying to create. And I wasn't trying to create something just to say, okay, quick, $500.
Right.
And so, no, I can appreciate having that understanding of that and then being able to create from both places.
Exactly.
And that is something that's super important for a full-time artist to know that, because, yeah, if you just, I mean, sometimes you can. And at a certain point, you will be able to create whatever it is you want and people
Right.
will buy it. But as you're just getting started, that's not the case.
That's
you
not the
have to
case.
dance between that fine line of what you want and what you can sell, and
Exactly.
then learn from those two, and then finally get to that like perfect
Right.
balance where you have what you want and what you can sell together.
Exactly. Kind of balance everything out. And yeah, not everyone comes from money. Like if you come from a lot of money and you're able to just create, then that's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that for you, and that is a beautiful thing that should not be hated. That is something that their parents worked really hard for their kids to be able to have that life. And I will always just appreciate that. Appreciate the fact that somebody is creating, they choose to be a creator. I love that.
Yeah.
And there's also beauty within not having anything. Like for me, my life changed when I came from Colombia. We were upper middle class, and then came here after the war, and our lives changed. My grandma found this newspaper clipping in Colombia that said that if you come to the U.S., become a bilingual teacher at Houston ISD, you'll get on the path to naturalization, which
wow.
is citizenship. So my father did it. He came to the U.S., was serving tables and being a bartender, sending us money to pay for our private school. I went to this Italian school in Bogota, which is amazing, incredible upbringing over there. And I was very grateful that my father was working super hard, changed his whole life, to allow us to have a good education. And then here he was getting his teaching certificate. Finally got it. We moved out here, and we were not in the nice part of Houston. It was gnarly.
Houston's rough some parts
Dude,
of town. Yeah.
Yeah, bro. We were in Spring, Texas. I remember the elementary school was kind of like a MS-13 like area.
Like gangs.
Gangs.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. MS-13 was like ruling that high school. My brother had to deal with that. At one point, I've told a couple friends this. One point, like, I remember I had this one friend. His name was MacGyver. I'll always fucking remember this moment. We were leaving school, and these kids that come up running up to us, they're like, our brothers are in a fight, in a gang fight, and you guys are going to have to join right now, and you're going to come help us because you're going to fight on our side.
What?
Bro, I was 10 years old. I had just gotten to the U.S. Only word in English I knew how to say was home.
Dude.
Yeah, dude. And I'm like, no, I come from this Italian school. It was like beautiful. Like, I skipped 2 grades I skipped 1 grade. I should have skipped the 2nd grade when I got here.
Gotcha.
And yeah, it was crazy. Like over there, I was the class clown. Here, I was like the nerd who just knew all the answers. It was ridiculous. I was like looking around, like, oh, what? Like, I'm the fucking class clown. How the fuck do y'all not know any of this? So yeah, we get out of school, and these 2 kids try to like pull us into this gang fight. And MacGyver, he like looks at them. He's like, nah, I'll go with y'all. Y'all don't mess with him. Leave him alone, because that's not his life. And yeah, at that moment, I was also obviously like, nah, fuck that. I'm
That's
not
good,
coming
though.
with you.
Yeah.
And that was good because that was his life, and I hope he's doing well. I don't know where he's at these days, but shout out to him.
For looking out for you, right? For
Yeah,
keeping
for
you out of
looking
that.
out.
Because
Yeah.
that's, again, just like we said, it's like that could have been the catalyst for who
For
knows
negative.
what.
Yeah,
You know?
who knows what? Like, could have been what? Like in dealing with MS-13, bro. What?
For no reason.
For no reason.
'Cause,
There's-
yeah, no, you
it's-
just got here like you're talk about culture shock, right? To
Culture
come
shock.
from a nice, safe environment, and now you're dealing with this. But kudos to your dad for leaving that, again, safe
Absolutely.
environment and taking the risk and
Yep.
working his ass off to make sure that not only was he taking care of himself while he was here, but he was sending money back home to make sure that you guys were getting your education, getting everything that you guys needed,
Exactly.
and paving the way for then you guys to come over here at some point.
Exactly.
And so that's, I guess, a testament to probably why you have that work ethic instilled inside of
Absolutely,
you,
man.
right?
Yeah, 100%. My father actually just moved back to Colombia last week.
Oh, wow.
After being here for 23 years, and we had this dinner, and I told him that. I was like, man, I'll never forget what you did for us, because it was a moment that was crucial. It changed my life and how I view hard work. And seeing my father just work his ass off, like you said, send us money, and then we get here, and he gets his teaching certificate, becomes a teacher, and moves us to a nicer part of Houston after I told him all the gang stuff. And, obviously, we heard gunshots in the area. It wasn't cool.
No, it never is, man.
Nah. So they tried our hardest to get out of there. It was like 6 months. Then went to a different part. It wasn't as bad, but still. Then we finally moved to a nicer part of Houston. And we still weren't well off. Never were. We lived in this townhome in the Woodlands. And I, like, sure, as a kid, you're like, oh, I wish I was rich. But, like, in reality, I think I am the person I am because of that. Because I saw how hard my dad had to work and how he was able to pivot and change his entire life. Be like, okay, you know what? This is what I have to do. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to get my kids through school, come to the U.S., and because of that choice, I am an artist. I don't think I could have ever been an artist if I was living in Colombia. Not that it's bad over there, but artists aren't able to make a living in the way that we are doing here in Austin. Yeah. There's so much support, so many groups, like Almost Real Things, Más Cultura, so many galleries like yours that support artists. And there's the public art, there's like the spray paint and graffiti groups, there's the fine art groups. There's so many good people that like push for culture, and that's a beautiful thing. But yeah, man, maybe that is kind of like what gives me my hard work ethic. And after quitting the job, it was like, man, this is all I got. Like, there's no way I'm gonna give it my all. And that's kind of been my MO. I just bust my ass in the studio every day, and I go to 3 to 4 gallery shows a week, and I network, and I try to connect my friends to this and this and this. It's like, oh, you want to show at this type of gallery? Okay, I know this person. Like, I'm always trying to help people out. Like, how can I plug you? You want to do a bakery? I got a friend who like runs this bakery, and she started her own business. Now she's doing really well. But that's the beauty of being in one place. Like earlier you were talking about, like, what are some things that can help an artist? It's like, I think being in one place, building that community, and like it's a term that we can throw out so loosely, like, yeah, community is important, but like, why is community important? It's like, well, it's not just important in a manner that it's going to benefit you to go out and be like, oh, I need to do this thing because it's going to benefit me. It's because you're just connecting with people at a personal level. You're being a good person, you're having friends, you're not being a person who's always alone. And you are getting inspired by all these people around you. And as you're in the community for a long time, you know that this person does that and this and this and this, and you can always plug people. And I think that's kind of like a beautiful thing of how we grow. But with that being said, is stay in one place for a little bit. I was able to go to Berlin this summer. Super grateful that my career allows me to, that I'm in a place in my career that allows me to go to Berlin for 3 months and just live out there.
It's incredible.
Yeah, and I went to Art Basel the past 2 years, and I've been like going to Colombia, and it's amazing. I'm so happy, super proud that I can pay for all these trips with money that comes from me selling my art. And that's a beautiful thing. And this trip that I just got back from Berlin taught me something. And it is the fact that not that I took for granted how established I had been here, because I've been in Austin for 13 years. But at my point in going to Europe, my brothers live in Germany. Half of my family lives in Germany, so
awesome.
Went to visit, for that, but also to scout out how's the art community, how's the art movement in Berlin, because you always hear about like all these artists out there.
Yeah.
And it's true. There's lots of artists, but everyone's just grinding it out. It is oversaturated with artists. I love the city. I love all my friends I have out there. And one thing is that I found out is that they're not selling as much work within Berlin. They're all going to Switzerland or France or the Netherlands to sell their work, or they sell it in the US. And it's a different function of how artists move, independent artists move, because for example, in Germany, there's a lot of grants that the government has that support culture, which is something that I wish there was a lot more of here in the US. It's kind of coming up on that. But the government itself sets a lot of money aside for culture. And that's beautiful. If you're an artist, if you can prove that you're creating this, X, whatever, musician, visual, performance art, there's so much support for that. And you can live, you can get a stipend.
Oh, wow.
My friend, he was going to Costa Rica, and he was like, man, like, I got this credit card, and I'm not going to say how much money he had, but he had enough to not, like, worry about spending.
What a beautiful feeling.
Yeah, amazing feeling. And it was for materials. That was the only thing. He can only use that money for materials.
But that's nice, though, because you
It's
can
like-
create as big as you want when you have that.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like you can get your... He was a music producer, so he was like, man, I bought the fucking newest MacBook. I got the speakers, and his house was amazing. It was
Oh,
this
that's
like
cool.
badass art studio, and oh my god, what part of Germany was it? It starts with an E. Is I forget. Anyways, it was cool just to see this like huge pad just open with like all windows around, and this like painting area, the chilling area, the kitchen, just the dream for any artist. But yeah, what I learned from that is that I came back and I was like, man, I did not realize how much of an impact it was going to have to not be connected to my community here in Austin. And I was doing all this work in Berlin to kind of connect with that community. And not that I forgot about Austin, but it just taught me is like, oh, you got to always keep flowering your plants.
Yeah.
Don't forget to flower your plants, because you've grown this beautiful tree. Like, keep watering it. Just because you got a new plant doesn't mean that you got to let this one die.
It's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it.
Uh-huh.
Because we get so comfortable, right, with what we already have that it's easy to just gloss over it, right? Something that like you once wanted so bad, you obtain it and you appreciate it for a little, but it's very easy. I guess it's in human nature to just be like, okay, I got it. That was awesome. What do I want next, right? Like our continuous, what do I want?
Right.
What do I want? What I want? So to be able to sit and look back and reflect and be like, no, I am thankful for this. I appreciate this. I need to make sure that I hold on to this, because getting it is one thing, holding on to it is a whole nother challenge.
Absolutely.
And so to be aware of that and be able to move in a certain pace where you understand, okay, this is important, and I need to cultivate both, goes a long way. Especially like you mentioned, community, because community isn't something that one is given really quickly. Like you have to earn community trust and community involvement and community participation. And you do get that by, like you said, going out and participating with the community, going out and engaging, going out and being the facilitator of connections, whatever the case may be, as long as you're leaving a brick for the next person and helping others grow and whatever the sense is, right, then that's how you can fortify a strong community. And like you said, right, being a good person, being authentic, being honest, genuine, and looking to participate more than just what you're going to get out of it, but just to be involved.
Just to be involved. And with that, you have to not be afraid of rejection, right? Because being a part of a community can sometimes be like you're applying to this group show or this group show and this group show, and maybe people don't know you that well enough, and maybe you don't get accepted to those group shows at first, and you're gonna be like, man, okay, what is it? Is it my art? Like, why am I not getting into these group shows? It's like, man, like sometimes all you have to do is show up, show your face, meet the people, meet the artist, who's throwing the show, like. Not that that should be your intention, but like just go meet the people and go see like what you're trying to get into. Like, if anything, just look at the world that you're trying to go in. Like, do you like it?
Yeah.
Are you interested in that space? Are you interested in the people that are that are creating this experience? And that's the thing. But then also, it's the same thing with like public art. Like, man, it takes so long. You apply and apply and apply and apply
Yeah.
to like, not just like, it's like there's the group shows and there's gallery shows, and then public art, you have to put so much effort into it until like you're gonna get so many rejection letters. And I think that is one of the biggest things is how do you move forward when you get hit? How do you move? How do you get back up? And how is your reaction? For me, I've been meditating since I was 13 years old. I wake up, it's part of my morning routine. I meditate in the sauna. It's just kind of a part of who I am, and that has so many lessons within itself, right? But one of them is reactions. Like, how do you respond to something that is not nice, something that is not good? Because that's gonna mean the most. It's gonna mean a lot more than what is actually happening. Is how are you reacting to this? Are you gonna punch back to something that isn't really worth fighting? You know?
Yeah.
And in that regard, is like, yeah, you're gonna get so many rejections. Just keep going. I think it's perseverance. Like, just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and dedication. Like, that is what has gotten me to where I am today. And I'm not even very far. Like, I have so much to learn, so much to do, so much to grow. I have all these big dreams. I'm basically just starting my career as an artist. I have my full life ahead of me and so many things that I have to learn. And I'm excited. I love it. And this is why I connect with people like you, and I connect with all my friends who are artists and who are doing it. I think it's a good thing. Like they say, surround yourself with, you are who you are the reflection of the 5 people you surround yourself the most.
Some average.
Yeah, that's some average. I think of that in the same way with art. Like, I surround myself with artists who inspire me, and I'm not jealous that they're doing good. I'm happy that they're doing good. And that to me is exciting. It's like, yo, my homie just sold a piece. My homie got into this gallery and he's doing good. And like, I love that shit. I fucking love being stoked for my homies. And there's a lot of people that can get caught up in jealousy.
Yeah.
And why are they getting this? Why are they getting this? And why am I not? I've been doing this for 10 years. Why am I not getting that? It's like, just keep pushing. And maybe ask yourself, why aren't you getting those things? Like,
How are you the culprit to the things that you're not receiving, right? I think so many times people are ready to put the blame outside of themselves and not look inward and be like, okay, why am I the reason that things aren't moving the way that I wish they were moving?
Right.
And if you start there, 9 out of 10 times you can solve that problem so much faster than if you're looking at, it's that person's fault, it's that person's fault. It's
Right.
insane.
It's like, no, like, look, you don't have a morning routine. You wake up and you're like, I don't know, XYZ happens. You're not diligent about your work. You're not supportive of people. Maybe you're very negative and you're talking down on people's works. Like, maybe don't focus on any of that. Just don't focus on talking about the bad things about anyone's work. Focus on yourself. Focus on your own craft. And that's it. You're just doing you. Go support people. Be a positive impact. And that's it. Or maybe surround yourself with people who are doing it and don't hate on them for being able to do it. Maybe get to know them. Maybe you don't know these people and like you just see them and you're like, oh, they're doing good because blah, blah, blah. Like they were handed this or that. I think I've seen a lot of that.
Really?
Yeah. And I kind of always try to be like, hey, like, don't take that like mentality.
Yeah.
Just be positive. Like, it's all good. Why don't you go talk to that person? Meet them. Like, be like, oh, how did you come up? Like, what can I learn from you?
I think that's a good approach. I think
yeah.
that way you don't close yourself off. But something you said earlier in the conversation, right? It's like, yeah, some people are going to come from money, and that's fantastic for them. That's
Absolutely.
the cards that they were dealt. But that's all we're doing is we're all playing with the cards that we're dealt, and how you use your cards to your best ability for the things that you want to accomplish is your mission. Don't worry about anybody else's cards and how they're playing them. Focus on you and what you're trying to get. It's like racehorses, right? You have the blinders on the side so you can't see what's going on over here, and over there you're just going for what you're chasing.
Train your horse and just exercise that horse. Give it good food. Make sure that it's getting a good diet. Make sure that it's getting those runs. Sure, it might not be winning every run, but then after a little bit, it's gonna win a place. It's gonna win another place, and then maybe you'll be at 3rd place. and be happy with that. Second place, like, I think the beautiful thing about art is that it's not a competition against others.
Mm-mm.
And if people look at it like that, and maybe this is the same mindset to have when it comes to owning any business. It's like you shouldn't see it as a competition with others. Like, it's competition with yourself and with your own craft. And how are you getting better? Because this is something that you love to do. So how do you get better at it? Like, be able to take not a compliment. Be able to take criticism in a good manner, because maybe sometimes like what you're doing is not. Maybe it could improve in whichever way, and that's kind of putting the ego aside. I find myself doing that a lot. Like, people are like, I'm just working on a piece, and people are like, oh, like, man, like, that'd be cool if you did that, and then they'll kind of stop themselves and they're like, oh, sorry, like, I shouldn't tell you what to do. It's like, I mean, like, yeah, don't tell me what to do. Like, for sure, but like, I think that's a cool idea. I think I like that. And most of the time, yes, like, when people talk about my work, they're like, oh, you know what you should do? You should make a table. You should do this. I'm like, very kindly like, yeah, I've thought about that, and I'm not trying to do that. Maybe I will, and I might do that this year, like, make a cool table. I'm trying to come up with like these next 12 pieces, and I was thinking about, I attained this table from a friend, and it's this very thick glass, and it's beautiful. The wood, there's a wood piece that goes in the middle. And I was thinking maybe I'll add my wood to that. Maybe I'll finally do this table that everyone's been asking me to do. But I always appreciate feedback and kind of seeing what people have to, what people are experiencing with the things that I create, because it's subjective. And I'd like to think that as artists, we're very tapped in, we're very empathetic, and I have these conversations with my friends. Like, as artists, you see a lot more than other people, whether that is visually, emotionally, or I don't know. Sometimes you just feel things differently. You capture different, like, body movements, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna talk to this person differently because of that. And it's not like you're thinking about it; it's just instinctual. Yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought on where I was going with that.
It's true that we are, like,
Yeah.
I think as artists, it's easier to be more empathetic and be tapped into the human emotion and then feel that off of others, right? Like, when I said, when we first met and we started talking, like, I already instantly knew just from those few conversations that you and I would click very well.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just kind of that ability that we have as artists to be able to just, it's more of it's less of the surface level, and you can really see what's going on underneath. And I think that's our ability to connect with people. And I think that's why when we create art or when we make something, we can have it resonate with people, because we do have that empathetic approach whenever we're creating something. And then also, we're expressing our vulnerability when we create something, which then allows others to then be a part of what it is that we're creating, and then join us in that conversation and meet us where we're at sometimes. Sometimes they don't, and they have their opinions. And I think you handle it really well, where you just, I appreciate that feedback. Thank you. I'll take it into consideration and keep it moving, right?
Exactly.
Like, because you have to have a filter. Like, it's good to have feedback, I think, mainly at the end. Because you can see how people have received it, what they thought about it, right? And you can kind of use that information, internalize it, and go from there. I think it's important to have maybe some constructive feedback as you're working on a piece, but from other artists that you respect.
Right. Exactly.
Because you can't just have everybody. That. Yeah.
No, you can't. I never open up my work to, like, all these, to the public.
No.
I open up to friends. I'm like, all right, yo, what do you think about this? I'm trying out a new thing, and I don't feel comfortable with this. I don't think it's balanced out. And I think that's the cool thing about being a part of an art studio in which I work near other artists. It's the fact that, like, I keep my door open, my friends keep their doors open, and I just kind of walk out, and, like, I'm having, like, a mind block, whatever. Kind of walk out, and my friend will be like, hey, man, like, what do you think about this? Like, is this space too filled on the right? And you kind of, like, find the people that you trust, and you trust their aesthetic, and you trust that they see your vision, and you can kind of, like, go back and forth on, like, how can this be better? And I do find value in, I do want to do this with friends later, and it's like we all just get maybe 2 to 3 pieces, sit down, and kind of like they do in art school, is you have this critique.
Oh yeah, formal critiques.
Yeah, man, it's scary, but I love it. I don't know why I love that shit.
Well, it's good because if you do it with people who have a technical understanding of not only your art but other artists' work, and they say, okay, it's like this or like this, and did you try this? And oh, well, it reminds me of this, or hey, this looks a little bit not sloppy, but you can polish this off here, right? Like, there's a lot of value in that because like I remember critiques in art school, they were horrifying at first because again, it's like you've worked so hard on this thing.
Right.
You're going to put it up for now people to judge. And you're just like, but it gives you that thick skin because you learn how to take in that feedback. You learn how to take in the criticism. You learn how to accept all that because not everybody's going to love everything you do. No. And you don't want everybody to love everything you do. You want people to feel uncomfortable about the things that you create. You want people to be like, oh, that's not for me. But if they're feeling something, whether it's good or bad, I think that's when you've won because you've made somebody feel.
Absolutely, 100%. And yeah, you are getting a thicker skin. You're getting better. You're making people feel something. And at the same time, I think one good thing about these critiques, or one idea that I have of like why I want to do it is because as professional artists, full-time artists, you get with your friends and you might be like, hey, listen, tell me everything you feel about this piece and kind of just opening it up, like give it to me. Because I think it's important because I would like my friends to tell me the things that I'm like getting stuck on, like or like question me on like why do you keep doing this or why do you do that? I mean, what does this mean to you? My brother, he's the director of culture of a town in Germany. He used to work in the Schwäbisch Halle, and I think now he is a director of culture in Mers. Okay. And him and I have these conversations about like what are we trying to do with art? Like what does art mean? And like as I study philosophy and these philosophy classes, these Socratic dialogues of like any topic really, like you can do it for art as well as like what is the purpose of art? And that's a whole thing in itself. But as artists, as a professional artist, like what am I doing? Where am I trying to go? As I've like developed myself, I find something that I'm good at and I create my niche, I create my brand, and now I'm an established artist. Now people know what I do, and I'm at that point now within like my small city of Austin. Like some people know my work because it's the wood stuff, it's the layered. I've continued doing the same thing over and over and over again. I haven't stopped. But how am I moving culture forward? I think that's a thought that I like to ask myself a lot. It's like, think back to old art movements in the past and like what is our current art movement right now? What am I really trying to create? Why am I creating? Am I creating because it brings me this like satisfaction of other people really loving what I create aesthetically and that pleases my ego? Or why am I actually like, what's my purpose? What do I feel about like this creative process? And maybe there's some things you don't want to hear in this critique, but I feel like that these critiques are needed. Yeah. Like just being open to like the raw, like, okay, dude, like what are you actually trying to do? Like how do you want to move forward? If you don't, it's okay if you don't know what you're trying to do. It's okay if you're just creating from the love of creation. Not everyone has to have like this philosophy of like, oh, I have to have this concept and this like high art. There's much to it. There's so much more than just high art that's like hyper conceptual. But I do love that. I do love being able to express a feeling, an emotion, an experience through my art for people. Yeah, I don't know. I think these are all good questions to ask, and it's like, it's exciting. Maybe like I'll talk to Pace. Yeah, let's get a heavy critique going.
I mean, it'd be fantastic. I think it is good to open yourself to that type of feedback. But I think really the most important thing is, like you said, is why. Yeah. Why am I doing this? And finding the answer and why. Like I just went through an exercise myself of like, why? Why am I doing all these things? Like, because, I mean, I bury myself in my work and all these other things that I'm doing. And it's like, why am I continuing to sacrifice my time and my efforts and my capacity and my brain space and everything? And I've never really looked for a why. Like I've just kind of been like, no, this is what I want to do. Like instinctively, I knew this is what I wanted to do.
Right now.
Yeah, like I just know this is what's next. This is what feels right to me. This is where I got to get to, and I've just been moving like that. And it's good to instinctively move, but as I've sat down and I've really started to analyze what my why is in all of this, that's kind of where I got to that statement that I made earlier. Is like you have two hands, one to help yourself and one to help others.
I like that a lot.
And that's where I feel like is my why. Like I have a given ability to see value in things and then create opportunity and put people together to where they can now have value and create opportunity for themselves. I can create a roadmap. I can do that. And so for me, if that's my given ability that I was fortunate enough to just have given to me, and then I was able to build on top of that with all the knowledge and everything that I've worked on, then to me, it's my responsibility to be that catalyst of positive growth cycles for others.
Absolutely.
So then I need to elevate others. I need to make sure others have a platform. I need to be that spark of change for them to then take whatever I can give them and share with them to take to others, and then they will be the catalyst of positive change.
Exactly. Dude, it's
And-
being a catalyst.
Dude, that's it. Because it's
Yeah,
all
fuck yeah.
cause and effect. Everything in this life is cause and effect, cause and effect. And if we can be positive causes for other things, then that for me feels like a very good why.
It's
And
a
that's what
very
I
good
came
one.
to.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's taken you a long time to get there because you also have a lot of things that you've done throughout your life to get you to being able to, that's gotten you to the point in which you can do all of these things for people.
Yeah.
Like you have your morning routine. I know we talked about this and like this is something that we've connected. It's like, man, I see you hustle and grind. Like, bro, you wake up at what, 3 a.m.?
3 a.m., dog?
3
Yeah.
a.m.? Holy shit.
I love
wake
it.
up, I do 7 a.m. 7:30, 8 a.m. sometimes. Like if I really need, I can sleep into 9. But man, I commend that. That's admirable.
But you have your own schedule, right?
I
That's the
do,
thing. And that's
yeah.
the beauty of life is finding what works best for you.
Exactly.
It's like
Yeah.
what in the constructs that we're given, where can you find the rhythm that's best for you? And once you can do that, then you can evolve and grow and then, do your thing. Because, yeah, like 3 is good for me right now, but it wasn't always like that before. I was at a 7 o'clock wake up time. Maybe in the future, I'll be at a 9 o'clock wake up time. But it's just, you move and you
Right.
pivot based on what you're trying to accomplish and what is being thrown at you. And it's, yeah, man, I think the really good thing that I think you and I both do is meditate. I can't stress that enough because if you can't control your own bodily impulses, you won't be able to control anything around you.
Right.
And then you're just constantly reacting and living in this state of chaos, which is not going to allow you to have the clarity to
Right.
plan what you really want to accomplish long term. And so when you meditate, and for however long it is, if you sit there and you're able to not be fidgety and you're able to get lost in your mind and you're able to have your conversations, and maybe you're not even going into a meditation with like an expectation, you're just going
Right.
to sit quietly and see where your thoughts take you. You'd be surprised at how much resolve you can find from that.
Absolutely. Just letting the crazy, it's like, it's okay if you go into the meditation and you have just a train of thoughts coming at you 100 miles an hour. And you're like, man, I'm meditating because I need to calm my mind. I'm meditating because like, I need to stop all these thoughts. Like that's a lot of people go into it and they ask me these questions about meditation. And I'm like, no, those thoughts are good. You sit there and you observe all of that. And then after like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, you feel good because it's something that your mind needs to process. We don't give our mind the space to not have this like explosions of sense data that's coming at us every second of the day. Like we have music, we have the sounds of horns, cars, vehicles, like you have the wind, buildings being built, you have your friends and like people talking to you, and you go to the grocery store and there's people moving. There's so much coming at you at the everyday, like it doesn't stop. And then now we have our phones and that is like so much information coming at you, and that's a good thing, also be in control of that. But it's a beautiful thing to let yourself be attacked by these like 100 whatever thoughts for 5 minutes, and then after that maybe they calm down, and then maybe you're able to observe and like you feel so much better. I don't know if you've ever done a silent meditation retreat.
I'm not a retreat.
No,
What's that like?
bro, I went to this technique is called Vipassana.
Vipassana?
Vipassana.
Vipassana.
Yeah, Vipassana is the oldest meditation technique. It's very traditional. It's very simple and kind of cutthroat. It's very rigid.
Okay.
And the rules of how you do it, you go to these centers. Basically, it was the meditation technique that the Buddha started with.
Okay.
And they've opened up these centers all over the world that are free. Absolutely free.
Incredible.
You go there, you stay, they give you a place to stay for 10 days. They feed you vegetarian food. You can't have any caffeine. There's no drugs. There's no reading. There's no writing. There's obviously no sex. You're kind of pulled away from all of the things that can distract you in life. And obviously the females and males are separated, and you have your rooms, and you don't talk. You don't talk at all for 10 days.
Wow.
Like anything. And it's insane, bro. Like I definitely saw people kind of freak out a little bit, and you start reading stories about like people kind of having these freak out moments within themselves, because like you're allowing all these thoughts that you never allow by meditating, whether it's 5 minutes or 10 days. You're allowing you to connect to yourself, to connect to your inner person of like, all right, this is what I really truly feel about myself and the world. And you start thinking about like, oh, I said this to this person 5 years ago, and man, maybe I shouldn't have said that. And you give yourself the time to slow down and think back to maybe how you're treating other people. I think there's a story in which they say like in the 60s, one of the creators, or maybe it was like the guy who pushed the button on the atomic bomb, or like a large scale bomb. I'll have to get back to you on that. But he comes in, he goes to Vipassana. He is extremely rich, and he's getting these migraines, and he couldn't get them solved by any doctor. And he's like, okay, finally, like I'll go to a Vipassana. And they put him in this room, and the guy's just screaming. And it's like, yep, like let this guy go. And he pushes through the meditation 10 days. And I think he decides to do a 30-day and 60-day after that. And he stayed, and his life completely changed. And it's not like meditation is a cure-all, but I think meditation is a way to really connect yourself and diagnose yourself and feel your body. Anyways, Vipassana, to kind of put it in short, is this 10-day meditation. You just sit with yourself, and you go in this room, and you sit down, and you learn. I learned that there's a specific technique for my body to not hurt, and I just get 2 pillows, and that helps my body be propped up. And then I need pillows on my knees, and that helps my knees not be in pain, because that's what stops me from meditating for a long time. And then I started meditating for 5 minutes at a time, and then I went to 10, 15, 20, and I was doing an hour meditation.
Wow.
At this place, I think the longest I did was 2-hour meditation.
That's powerful, though. 2 hours, man. That's
2
a
hours.
long time.
Absolutely. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And every day, basically, it's a simple technique. There's no images of gods. There's no beads that you're rubbing. There's no mantras. There's nothing. It's you and your breath. This is why it's so rigid. Like I said, no drugs, no alcohol, no inhibitions, and no anything else. It's just you observing your breath. And at first, you start to focus on one spot, which is like the middle spot right above your lip and between your nose. And it's called Anapana, and you start feeling the sensations in that spot. Second, third day, you keep practicing Anapana. Then you actually start the practice of Vipassana, which is feeling the sensations throughout your entire body. And you learn to feel the sensations of the air with Anapana, with like how you feel the air coming in and out of your nose. Anyways, it's insane. You start scanning your body, and you start seeing that you can't, if you close your eyes and you think to your right foot, you're like, yep, I can move my right foot. But if you really slowly start scanning your whole body, you don't feel it. You're like, wait, I actually don't feel like that part of my chest or whatever. After 10 days, it was insane. You start feeling this entire body in a much more connected way, and you're like, oh, wait, I have pain there. Like, and kind of like, there's a lot of lessons through that of like that you learn through being there, and there's kind of like a philosophy after, and they talk about like the things that you are going through. It's really beautiful, man. Highly recommend checking it out.
I have to.
Yeah, bro.
It sounds incredible. I mean, to be able to go from 5 to 20 to 2 hours, because I mean, right now I'm at a 20-minute cap.
Yeah.
After
That's
20
good.
minutes, I start to get a little angsty. I can feel it, and I'm coming down. So I usually I'll start, close my eyes, my 3 breaths in. My 4th one, I'll hold it in for 5 seconds, one big one up and then let them out 6 seconds.
Yeah.
And then I feel just the way I like to do it is I feel energy coming down from the top and I feel my body all the way down, all the way down, all the way to my chest, all the way to my arms. But I try to feel my everything all the way down to my feet.
Yeah.
And then my feet go into the ground and I feel that energy explode into the ground and then we're off to just wherever my mind wants to take me.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
That's exactly, I mean, that's what it is. Like you start scanning and, sorry, excuse
No,
me.
you're
The way they describe it is you start kind of feeling this like Taurus kind of energy, kind of, you start feeling this like the scan, the power of the energy behind the scan, and it's like moving around you and then go down and up and down and up. It is insane.
It's crazy because
Yeah.
you can feel like if you're in it and you're thinking about it, you can just feel everything very slowly. And it's very like it's almost like I'm this vessel full of water.
Right.
And when I'm like feeling my body, it's the vessel slowly emptying and emptying and emptying and emptying and emptying all the way down. And then, yeah, I'm plugged in and then I can get lost. And it's nice because sometimes I go in with like, okay, I need to think about this. And you don't initially start thinking about it. Like you get in there and you're like, okay, here's 20 other things that you didn't know you needed to think about real
Right.
quick.
Dude, it's like, yeah, I would do this and this and this, and I gotta do that and that and that. And like, oh, I gotta talk to this person.
Ah.
Oh, I got this creative idea. Like, oh, wait, fuck, that's a creative idea. Oh, I like that. I'm gonna save that for later. And it's, your mind is just racing.
It's running, it's running,
Yeah.
it's running. And then, yeah, finally you get to this point of like, okay, you zone in on like that one thing that was important. And it's weird because, I don't know, for me personally, I set out to meditate on one thing and then I find myself finally thinking about this other thing. And that's the thing where that's like, I really needed to spend my time thinking about it. And because I was letting, like you said, oh, I got to talk to this person, I got to do this, I got to call this person, I got to post that, I got to share this, I got to share that happen. I didn't realize that this is where I needed to be spending my attention for a little bit and
Right.
thinking through this. And so, no, it's incredible, especially when you can use that power. I like to visualize as well, like things
Yeah.
that I'm going to try to accomplish or
That's
things
good.
that I want to do.
I should do that more.
Dude, it helped me get this place. I'll tell you right now,
Yeah.
like, cause for let's say 2.5 years, I would go up and down. So
Yeah.
first I used to take the bus cause I sold my car back in 2015 to buy my camera.
That gives you a whole different experience.
Let's
and
do it.
How you're looking at the world, man. Instead of just,
Absolutely.
like being lost and driving your car and being so content and just.
Well, you're focused on the task at hand, right?
Yeah.
To get from point A to point B when you're driving. When you're in the bus, especially for me, I just sit there and I look at people and everything, whatever. But I would see this building, and I was like, man, what's going on in that building? What is that building? And I would, that's it for years. And then finally this space was available. And I had already been meditating on, I need to live in a space where I can live upstairs and I can have an art gallery downstairs. Like, how very specific is that?
Absolutely. Hyper.
Dude, and
You
then
got to be hyper specific.
lo and behold, this space opens up. And what are we doing? We're living exactly what I was just envisioning in my head. And I didn't know what it was going to look like. I just knew that that's what I was trying to get after. And I planted that seed. And then through meditation,
Hell
through
yeah.
obviously the hard work, through
Obviously,
the
there's
connections.
so much hard work and thinking about it, but you're setting that goal for yourself and you're visualizing that goal.
Yeah.
I said I don't do it too often, but I do it enough. Everything that's happening in my life right now, man, I've thought about it. I've been like, all right, I need to do this. I want to get to this space. I want to do that. I want to get a public art piece. Like, how do I get there? And it's just like putting the intention. It helps you put the intention towards that instead of kind of like mindlessly roaming around the world without just guidance and confusion.
So how important is it for you to set that intention as a full-time artist in all the things that you want to accomplish?
It's everything really, because for example, right now I have my intention. I just got back from a road trip around the U.S. delivering art pieces all over the country, which is amazing. It's fucking beautiful. So happy I got to do that.
Was it all your work?
It's all my work.
Fantastic.
Yeah, all my work to my clients.
Oh, love
Yeah,
that.
that was crazy. It was like the insane part was that it was in the middle of winter, and I had this 4 foot by 8 foot piece that I built a crate for, so it was like 5 by 9, and I rented a trailer. So I have this trailer and this piece that has a mirror and LEDs in the back, so I had to like really make sure that I didn't hurt the piece. And if I didn't want to ship this piece out, if I ship this thing out, it's so heavy, it's gonna cost me like $7,000. It's so much. And that's the thing with my work, it costs a lot to ship.
Yeah.
But then I had a few other pieces in the car. I went to Utah, dropped off a piece to my homie. We chilled, got to catch up. Then I went to Carbondale near Aspen. My homies, they bought this huge, beautiful mirror piece. It was super exciting. We got to hang it. We spent a couple of days with them, making breakfast, going out. Like, they had this gorgeous view of the mountains from their place, and it's really special to be able to connect with people that buy your art at such an intimate and personal level.
Mm-hmm.
I love it, and it just speaks so much to the beauty that can happen once you really trust in yourself and like really dig in and like go for what you're wanting to do. And that's a reminder for myself to just keep going and keep doing it, because I've trusted in myself. I've like 100%. Like, it's been my only path, like I said earlier, and I've set my mind to whenever I set my mind to something, I make it happen. Like, there's no failing. Like, and that's not in an egotistical manner. That's like in a manner of like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't happen, then fine. But pretty much whatever I like to, I don't know. I mean, you get what I'm saying.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it was cool, man. I did that. We went to Chicago, went to Michigan, came back down, saw Nashville, dropped off a piece again in Hot Springs, Arkansas, and came back down. And then after that, I had this big commission. I spent 3 weeks on it. It was a rush process, and it was amazing. Great collaboration with a friend of mine. Her name's G Bunny. On Instagram, Gabriela Cepeda. She's a great artist. She does all these amazing LEDs.
Oh, this was the Jaguar.
This is the Jaguar. Yeah, exactly. The Jaguar that we had, that we showed here at the gallery.
So incredible, brother.
Yeah,
That was
man.
so. I got to send you that video still of it just flashing
Okay.
into the dark. I have it.
shit,
Oh, it's
let's
so
go,
sick.
man.
I missed
would
it. Like,
love to see that.
oh, when you took it the next day, like I remember walking through the foyer and I was just like, why is this piece not here anymore? It was so beautiful, man.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
All right,
I'd
sorry.
love to hear that.
Keep on,
No,
brother.
yeah.
My bad.
No, I appreciate that. That means the world. I also didn't get to spend a lot of time with that piece. It was like that one night, and I was kind of pulled talking to people, and then I got to spend a little, like 2 minutes talking to a couple of my friends in front of it. And then we installed it at my friend's my client's home, my friend, and it's really beautiful. We went out for her husband's birthday dinner later that evening, and it was it was a special piece for them because it was going to be for their birthday. So I had 3 weeks to do it, and back to like having to create something on Rush, for me, like, I don't mind. I kind of really enjoy it. It's the fact that it just pushes you to work harder, and I also got the freedom from my client. They just allowed me to create whatever I wanted. They didn't give me any guidelines, and I love that about my commissions with people. People just fully trust in my concept. Maybe we talk about like, oh, these things mean a lot to me, or this or that, and like I sit down with friends or clients, and then we talk about a specific idea that they have when it comes to commissions. But for the most part, like, we once we have the concept going, I can just create however I want, and I think it's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just painting dog portraits. I think, and it's okay to paint dog portraits. That's amazing. I've done it, and it helps my skills get better. I painted so many portraits in oil when I was trying to teach myself when I first got the studio. Man, you learn so much about light and shadow and perspective by painting a portrait. But yeah, it's cool. It's cool that clients give you that free will, that free reign to create. I had a point with that though. You said, what was your question? You just asked me about.
So we were talking about just the overall importance of
intention.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And so I did that piece. It was great. Kind of went on a tangent on that. My bad.
No, that's good. That's how these podcasts go, man.
And yeah, came back, blah, blah, blah. Now it's South by, and I had an installation that I was also helping Gabriela G Bunny with that she designed. So I helped her fabricate that. And it was great. But within all of this, my intention is to create 12 large-scale pieces. Normally it takes me about a month to create one piece because it's so intricate. Every piece that I create has layers. Mm-hmm. So if it's a 9-layer piece, I'm creating 9 paintings essentially and putting them all together. It takes so long, so much thought and I have to do so much thinking about how these things are gonna cut. People look at my work and they're like, "Oh, what do you use? Use a laser. It must be so easy." It's like, oof, like, this is the farthest thing from easy, my man.
Talk
Like,
about that process a little bit and why it's so complex.
absolutely, yeah. So I start out with my drawing, my ideas. Sometimes depending on the piece, I think about the words that I want to create, like the emotions that I want to create with this piece, and just kind of go along with this idea concept. And from that, I move to a drawing. A drawing, it's kind of basic, and I move that to the iPad. The iPad is another tool that allows me to just get straighter lines and just erase things quickly, and just kind of move forward on that process. So then I move to the iPad, and then I switch it to my computer, and I'm moving the entire time from paper to pen, iPad, MacBook, paper to pen, iPad, MacBook. And after that, once I have my design done, which used to take me 2 weeks, 3 weeks, now I'm a lot faster after doing this for close to, I think, 9 years now.
That's good.
And yeah, it's been a great ride. It's beautiful. Can't believe it's been so long, honestly. Like, it's insane. I remember like the first piece I made, and it was this tiny little 12 by 12, and sold it for $100. And I remember, I'll tell you all about that later. But after that, I use the laser cutter, and I have my work vectorized. I run that through the laser, and the laser, you have to go in, you have to get the wood. Obviously, it's heavy. You have to load the wood, cut, make sure that the laser is synchronized right, that it's the z-axis is perfect, that the lens are clean, the CO2 is good. Sometimes there's so many errors that happen with lasers, man. Like,
Really?
yeah, like most of the time, like a small quadrant on the laser is not getting enough power, so you have to figure out like, all right, what do I do? Because these things have to be cut, and I pay to rent it
Oh,
to be
wow,
able to use
okay.
it. So it's like, if I have 3 hours, I need to make the most out of those 3 hours. So I go into the space, and like
Yeah.
people know me in there. Like I get in and I get to work. Like, and I talk to people, and now I'm able to like help people and do things while the laser's cutting. But it's not that easy. It's like you set up your cut, and maybe sometimes I have to like slow the speed to 30%, and the power's still at 100%. But what does that mean if the speed is 30 when I normally cut at 60 millimeters per second? And 30, that's half. So now this one cut is taking half the time longer.
Yeah, twice as long.
Twice as long, yeah. And so there's so many things that always happen with the laser. It's never easy. My assistant saw this. They started working with me about a year ago, and they were like, holy shit, dude, like there's so much to this. Just the cutting process is such a pain, and you have to know how to use the laser and how to be efficient with it. So then, all right, finally I got the thing cut after 8 hours of cutting, which is like insane. Like my brain is moving 1,000 miles an hour. I'm like looking at cuts, making sure that like I'm programming every little cut that is being made. And that's another tool that I use. So I've gotten a little bit of flack sometimes from people who are like, oh no, I cut everything by hand. But honestly, like it's a tool. It's like a camera. It's like a phone. It's a projector that you're using. It's like the doodle grid that you use to get your drawing to a large scale.
Yeah.
And I feel very happy, and I'm grateful that most of the wood community accepts me, and like they've been very happy to see my work, and they're excited. For example, Woodcraft here in Austin, so the biggest wood shop.
Yeah.
They love it. They're always reposting it and talking to woodworkers and fabricators. They understand the process of how insane this is. So it's really funny when people are like kind of hating on the fact that I use a laser. I'm like, hey, like maybe you'd like it too, because it's only a tool that helps you create this concept that you have in your mind, this idea, and it helps you recreate this, like bring an idea to the real world. Anyways, I won't go down that path too much. It's then I cut, then I stain, and I have to have this huge workstation, and all my stains. I put on my mask, and sometimes I have a process with like a spray gun. Then I glue. It takes 24 hours. I have to let the stain dry. Glue 24 hours. Make sure that it's perfectly flat and even, so everything's cured well. And then after that, I varnish. So it's like a whole process for one piece, from drawing to concept to creation to finishing. And then after that, you gotta put tools to hang the piece, and then you gotta sell it, and then you gotta take photos and do the marketing and do it on social media and get it to shows. Like, it's a whole thing. So much work for one thing, and I love it.
It is though.
Yeah.
That's good though. That's good that you're that intentional with each step of the process. And I think, yeah, I feel like sometimes, and not always, but sometimes when there's outside voices who are, consider taking shortcuts, they don't know the process of what it actually takes. They just hear, oh, it's a laser cutter. And when you think laser cutter, you just think it's
Right.
done,
It's done.
right? Because that's the limited perspective that some people may have. But like you said, the entire woodworking community who's in it, in the
Yep.
nitty gritty day in, day out, they appreciate it because they know how hard it is and how much work goes into it and how
Right.
exact you have to be with a lot of things,
So many
especially
things.
because your patterns or your cuts are very intricate and very detailed, and there is a lot of layering that needs to be exact for it
Right.
to look as complex and cohesive as it needs to. So I mean, to anybody who's saying like, "Oh, that's this or that," it's like,
Right.
okay, well, you try, and if
Exactly.
you don't like that, then that's okay. You
That's
do your
okay.
art, and
Yeah.
that's cool.
That's cool. I actually respect that you do that by hand too.
Yeah,
And I've done it for a long time by hand too, and I can get a jigsaw and I can have fun with that.
I
And
paid my
feel-
dues.
Yeah, I paid my dues. I've done it, and I love it too. But am I able to create these insane things that I have in my brain with a jigsaw? Nah.
I mean, you could in years,
You
right?
could,
It'd take
yeah,
you years and
years.
years, but
No. It's like I'm like trying to build like the pyramids without like any tools that are helping me lift these big blocks. Like,
well, it's
what?
like thinking. It's like, what are you gonna? Let's say you're traveling to San Antonio. Are you gonna ride a bike from here to San Antonio? Or are you gonna get in your car
Exactly.
and drive your car? You
Exactly.
can drive your car.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah,
just.
yeah.
It's. I think it's just a limited perspective on the process that
Right.
forces people to challenge what you're doing.
Right.
I think it's, being able to share that process and what actually goes into it. Not that you're necessarily trying to convince anybody, but then
Right.
you can enlighten them on what that process actually looks like. And then they have an understanding and they can be like, oh, it isn't just A to B. It's actually A, B, C, D, back to C, D, E, F, G,
Exactly.
back to A. And then you're all the way at Z.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then things have gone wrong in that whole process, and it's been a headache, and then you finally like spent whatever, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month of your life on this one thing, and that's insane. But that's the beauty of being a creator, is like
Yeah.
we can spend time like a month on this, and I'm grateful that now I've been doing it for so long that now right now my intention is to create. Just I'm pushing myself, and I've never done this. I'm trying to create 3 large-scale pieces a month,
Oh, wow.
starting in March. I have 2 right now.
And you're one away.
I'm one away. Except I'm starting to. I think you saw it with the pieces that I put up here at the gallery for our show. I'm kind of diving into mixing my painting with the wood, because a lot of people don't know that I paint too. They think it's just the wood.
Yeah.
And I started painting. I started sculpting like ceramics. That's really what gave me the reminder and like the push to be an artist. I remember when you were asking me about like when I quit my job. When I quit my job, I did a lot of soul searching, and I was like, what really gives me meaning? And it's like, man, like honestly, it was that Mr. Viol's class in high school when I was sculpting that bust, and I was like just going at it. I was like the happiest person I've ever been in my life, just like chilling. But yeah, we chill, and like I would just be so happy sculpting, and like it's really nice. It came out really well. I'm proud of my sculpture, and I still have it to this day. But I thought back to that moment. I was like, art, creation, it is the mental space that gets me the closest to my meditative state. And that's when I'm the happiest, when I become most content, is in creation. And creation is very connected to that meditative state that we get ourselves in. And like, even yesterday, I was like, in this meditation, I was like, wait, this feels exactly how I feel when I'm in the sauna and just like thinking and like meditating in the sauna. But yeah, man, that like, it's a whole crazy path. I started doing graphic design. I wanted to have a brand when I was like 18, and I taught myself how to graphic design. because I went to the screen print shop and I had my drawings.
Gotcha.
I started, obviously, the whole art thing started in high school and before. I've always had an obsession with anything art related, any graffiti, street art. My brother showed me a bunch of street art when I was a kid. And yeah, I had these drawings, and I went to the screen printers, and they're like, all right, cool, man. It's gonna be $60 an hour. It's gonna be $400 for the shirts and the printing and all this. And it's like, this is like $600 quote. And I was like 18-year-old kid. I'm like, bro, $60 for what an hour? Like vectorizing. I'm like, what is vectorizing?
Yeah.
Like, what? I'm 18. I've never paid anyone $60. I wouldn't even get paid $60 an hour. What? Can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't do me like that. And I was like, all right, no, don't worry about it. I'll come back in a couple of years. So what I did was I worked my ass off and I taught myself how to graphic design. And then that's when I got that graphic design internship at the Solar Association at the community college. And then they allowed me to be their graphic designer, and I was teaching myself at the time while I was like, yeah, I'm a graphic designer. And then I pitched that idea, and then they were like, oh, okay, like, then you can do it. And they saw that I had these like bigger ideas, and they allowed me to like do more and more and more. And then I became part of the organizational team. I wasn't just the graphic design intern, but I was still doing the graphic design. And I was still like, me teaching myself how to do the graphic design was my into being a part of the organizational team for that event, which turned into me and 2 others leading this crazy event for the school and the city and the community, and learned millions of skills from that. But anyways, not to digress, I taught myself how to graphic design, and I finally went back and I got the shirts printed. My vector was great, and I was like, you know what? Y'all print the shirts for me. I was gonna teach myself how to screen print because I didn't want to pay for that either. And at that point I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get y'all to print it. I bought a screen printing press, taught myself how to do that, which is a crazy process.
Yeah.
On its own, you got to burn the screen. It's beautiful. I love that, and I think all my style started with screen printing.
That makes sense.
Because
The
screen
layering.
printing, the layering, exactly. And yeah, bro, I remember being outside of ACL, like being like a 20-year-old kid, just slaying my t-shirts. I like look back to that moment, I'm like, damn, I like legit just like put everything aside, didn't hang out with my friends just to like stand outside. I had a backpack full of my shirts rolled up, and I didn't even bring a table. I just had my shirt. I sold a few out of that round. It was great. I was like, okay, this is working. And yeah, I think I just traveled around the U.S. after that for like 5 months, did HelpX, and came back, did more schooling, and then I traveled. I didn't know what I wanted to study.
Yeah.
Graduated when I was like 26. But then I went to Europe and traveled just backpacking solo for 4 months. I slept on the beach in Italy. I brought like a sleeping pad for like 7 days. I slept on the beach. Just woke up, jumped in the Mediterranean Sea. Like slept in like Duomo d'Ossola in Piedmont, North Italy. Went up in the mountains. I hitchhiked through Switzerland, and it was wonderful, crazy experience. I have videos of all of this because like people don't believe it. I think this is a crazy story. This sounds like a movie.
That's awesome. I mean, that's how your life should sound by the end of it. I mean, if you're doing it right, like
Yeah.
it should sound like a movie. It should sound almost impossible, but the reality of it is it's not impossible. It's just sheer determination. It's sheer showing up. It's sheer putting up the work. It's sheer participating, right? Let's go back real quick to the point that you made, right? You taught yourself graphic design. You landed an internship for graphic design where then you made yourself a valuable asset to that entire team, and you showed up with ideas and things that you knew would help grow that organization, to which they take into account, and then they make you a part of the organization, and now you're creating larger scale opportunities for others. So right, it's that sheer determination that you have in, I'm going to do anything I can to make sure that I get closer to what I want to accomplish. And that's really, I think, at the bottom of everything for any artist or for anybody who wants to do anything. It starts with you and you showing up and you putting in the work and you doing the things that you know you're supposed to be doing when nobody's looking.
Absolutely.
Because there's, being out and performing and doing your best when people are watching is very easy.
Super easy.
But when nobody's watching you and you're supposed to go in and be like, I got to get up, I got to go to work, I got to put this in, I got to get this
Right.
done, I got to get this. Because again, it's really only an idea that you see right now, right? Or then, or at any
Yeah,
point.
it's just something that's a fleeting thought in your head.
Yeah.
If you don't catch it, if you don't do something about that thought,
Somebody
then
else
it's
is
never
gonna.
Somebody else is going to.
But no, it's good. What we're talking about was the importance of just you making those decisions to go out and accomplish everything that you want to accomplish, because nobody's going to hand anything out. Yeah, opportunity will be given later on as
Sure.
you show that you're prepared to take on the
And as you
responsibility.
Show that you're continuing to show up
Exactly.
and be dedicated.
Yeah, and
that's when
that's-
opportunities come.
100% when you're
Yeah.
participating. And that's, I think, why that group saw that, here's this individual who is coming to the table with ideas, who's coming with work, who's ready to go out and put in the work and perform and make sure that we get to another spot.
Right.
And you were the one that made that happen, right? And so it's incredible because that's what it takes for an artist. I think that's what it is.
And I saw this sticker the other day. My friend had it on his toolbox, and it said, it's 2 words, very simple. It says "fuck luck," because there's luck, but they say, what's that saying? They say luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's luck in life, but like it's being dedicated. That's when a lot of things come to you, is when you put in the work day in, day out. You have a dream, you have an intention set, and you have behind that intention, you have things that are gonna help you focus better so that you accomplish those dreams. And those things are your structure, your morning rituals, your eating habits, your workout habits, because working out, for me, that is one of the biggest things that help me like create better. And you wouldn't think that, like, it's like, oh, exercise and creativity are connected. It's for me, it's
They go hand in hand.
hand in hand. Like, if I'm not, I don't know, just being at the gym and rock climbing, and then I go in the sauna after I rock climb and hit the gym. It helped. I would go crazy.
Or I think it's that flow state that you are able to get into when you're doing both those things. I think when you're working out, you get into a sense of a flow state where, you're going from machine to machine, but you know what you're doing, you know what you're going after. If you're climbing, then you're going from different wall to wall and different, challenge that's on the wall, right? Because they're ranked.
Right.
It's like every kind of climb is a different skill set.
Solving.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I can see where the two are attached or connected, at least, even when you were talking about meditation and then getting lost in your work and how those two kind of feel the same. And it's that same, everything around you melts away and you're only focused on the piece you're creating, or in meditation, you're only focused on the thoughts that you're allowing into your
Right.
space and, applying that value to. So I can see where they go hand in hand, because to me, I kind of hit the same feeling where, like, if I'm riding my bike,
Yeah.
and if I hit like a stretch where I know I can just get lost in the pedal, everything just like melts, the sound, everything, and you're just locked into this one experience. I don't know. It's a nice feeling.
No, it's amazing. It's incredible, and it makes me think about like just how I don't really think about this, but I continuously, like, without thinking about it, is I put myself in these spots where I am just focused on doing one thing, and by doing that, I am the happiest when I allow myself to not have distractions and just hyperfixate on one thing. Like, right now, it's this conversation. If I'm at the gym, it's doing my calisthenics. Like, if I'm rock climbing, it's that. Like, I just do that one task. And back in the day, when I was coming up and learning and thinking about, like, oh, what do I want to do with my life? How do I want to be an artist? Like, I'm not gonna lie, bro. I was doing a million things at once. I was like, I want to paint, and I want to sculpt, and I want to do wood, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And like, what helped me kind of bring everything in was, I forget who told me or where I read this, because I'm always reading like fiction, nonfiction, and it was that to just focus on one thing, just focus on one thing. And I have so many friends who want to pursue the path of creativity and being a full-time artist, and yet they're like spreading themselves so thin. I think for me it was like, all right, you got to a point where I was like, I'm gonna choose, and I choose wood. And and I give wood all of my energy, no matter what. And I've been doing that for 8 years, and now I'm at a point where I can add painting to it. I can bring another thing in, but I've done really well with focusing on one. So man, it's definitely about like that flow state that you get in and you continuously. I think like that's what life is. It's like a really beautiful part of life, at least like when we're not pulled away by distractions. And the phone is a big distraction, but with what you're saying, it's like that goes hand in hand of like being prepared, doing the work, and like that is kind of like just showing up every single day. Like a lot of my friends are like they just comment on how kind of insane it is. Like what I do. Like they like text me at like whatever hour, and I'm in the studio, or I'm designing, or I'm working on a project, or I'm like anything I do is art related. Art is my entire life, and like some people don't want that. Excuse me. Some people don't want that, and sometimes people are not ready for that. It is a grind. It is a hustle. I had a homie the other day. They do a lot of things. They have a company, and they kind of do art a little bit, and they were just saying like, I don't think the art is for me. Like it's a lot. Like it's not for everybody. Like if it's for everyone would be doing it. Yeah. It's a beautiful thing. There's a lot of glory that comes with it, but you gotta fucking put in the work. Like let's be real. It's not an easy path. It's not so beautiful. People think it's so glamorous, and after we have the work in galleries, and like we get the recognition. We get these public art pieces, whatever it is, like these exciting opportunities that come to you by you really trusting yourself and following your dream. Like when you come back to it, like my studio is really messy. It is like I need my assistant. My assistant the other day, they're like, man, you know what my job is here? It's to fix your mistakes. I'm like, yo, what? Excuse me? What? Yeah, that's true, but you can't be saying that to me. I'm like, I make mistakes, but like that's what makes me who I am. Like I allow myself to make these mistakes. Yeah. I'm okay with making mistakes, and whenever they make mistakes, I don't freak out, and I let them make mistakes. I actually put them in spaces, and I give them tasks, and I don't help them because I know they're gonna mess it up, and I'm like, they're going to learn from that. Yeah. And I need them to learn from that because I need them to go through my same mistakes. And I think like that's a beautiful thing. Like whenever I teach Illustrator, like now I'm at a point like I teach Illustrator courses now. Now I teach graphic design. That's awesome. Which is insane to me because like I didn't go to school for it. I mean, I didn't even go to school for art, but it's with my students, I always like make them run through it, and I make them like teach me what I've taught them, and like be like, all right, so what did I say? Like, how do you do that? And like, I just catch them off guard. Like, 30 minutes into the lesson, it's like, all right, so how do you do that? Do it again. And people are like, okay, fuck. Like, I gotta teach you how to do this. Okay, yeah. Like, I make them understand it and recall that. And I mean, that's with any learning technique is the recall. That's how it'll stick. And redoing it and teaching it, then that's how you remember things. But yeah, it's funny. My mistakes are I still make mistakes every day, and in my design, like I will miss. Like I don't make as many mistakes. When I first started 8 years ago, man, there's so many mistakes in my design and my line work that like I would tell the machine to cut twice or 3 times, or over here, or this line was off, or this line was off by 2 millimeters, like, and then the composition would not come out the way I wanted it. Gotcha. And it's taken me so many mistakes to like actually create what I want. And I think that is one of the hardest things for an artist is execution. It's like executing the idea that you have in your mind, whether it's in painting, sculpting, like how do I actually craft this thing exactly the way that I'm thinking in my brain? And it's okay if it doesn't come out the same way. Whatever comes out, comes out. And there's beauty within that. It is exciting to be able to see yourself get better too throughout your execution and be masterful at that. Like, for example, like this muralist that inspires me like is Elmac. Okay. Elmac is I think he's from Portugal. He creates this like there's this very specific technique with spray paint, and he creates kind of like these ripples throughout people's faces, kind of like the water ripples that you see in lakes and such in the ocean. And it's really beautiful, and you can see videos of him talking about how he puts his cans in ice to be able for like the spray to come out in a different way that allows him to create like this pattern. And I think it's beautiful to get to such a point in which you've mastered your technique and you really dedicate yourself to that technique that you see, because no one teaches us this. I was telling my friend, she was freaking out about a sculpture that she did the other day, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so stressed out right now. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna execute this the right way. Like, if people are gonna like it, if this is a thing." I'm like, "Yo, you've been an artist for so long. You've been an artist for over 10 years. You've done huge things with like Gucci and Versace. Like, you've done things for the Super Bowl. You're a badass. Like, you inspire me every single day. Like, I learned so much from you." She was kind of tripping, and I was like, "Listen, like, it's okay." I forgot my point in that.
We're talking about how it doesn't always come out exactly how you view it, like at the very end, and how you watch your progress as you grow as an artist and evolve.
Yeah, and basically, like, I just kind of told her that, what was it, man? I lost it. It was about the fact that, you trust in yourself and you create the work, and it's going to be fine. And it'll have to come back to me. I forget. I don't know.
That's all right. We'll come back to it. No big deal. Yeah. It'll find you. It's a fleeting moment. But I think let's circle back real quick to a little bit of what you said in trusting yourself, in mastering your craft, and getting not necessarily, getting really, really good at one technique, and then adding that to your arsenal of things that you can do as you continue to evolve and grow as an artist, right? Like you said, you started painting, you learned how to do oil paintings and learned shadows and learned lighting and learned how to mix your colors and everything, right? And then you're like, okay, I'm going to focus on wood, and you focus very intently on wood, and now you're at a point where you know a lot of the ins and outs, a lot of the intricacies, you know a lot of mistakes that can happen and how to evolve or how to avoid them, And so now you're like, okay, now let's add this other component of my skill set to this and start to build on top of that and explore this and learn here. And like you said, I think that's the most important thing that you keep going back to in our entire conversation is you go back and learn. And whether it's, you're teaching yourself or reading books or finding resources that you can learn from, it's that never ending learning and being excited to learn and being thirsty to learn is what at the end of the day is going to catapults you into whatever spectrum you want to be in, because you're learning about, okay, let's say, whatever you say, I'm going to learn video now, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I can do this cool video with my woodwork and I can create these types of screens or whatever the case may be. You don't know what's going to happen, but once you learn and you understand the process and you understand the nuances of things, then you can take those nuances and mix them in with whatever it is that you want to create. And so it only comes with practice, showing up, messing up, learning, oh, I'm not supposed to do it this way. This is how I can avoid it. Oh, if I do it this way, it's going to be a lot faster. Oh, it's just whatever it is. The process. You have to be in love with the process, go with the process to learn the nuances. Trust the process is a big one, especially when, again, it's this idea that only you can see.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's what I was getting back to.
There we go.
Thank you. So I told her, it's okay. It's fine. You're an incredible artist. You've done all this work with all these big brands. Let's get you on the mic a little bit, brother. You've done all this work with all these big brands. And what's really funny is that no one taught you this. No one taught me this. We are doing it on our own. Sure, like some people go to art school. She did go to art school. But no one taught you what you're doing right now. Everything that you're doing right now is because you've gone from A to B to C to X to Y to Z. And you would have never gotten to that point if you didn't do this and this and this, like what you were saying earlier. And now she's able to create these sculptures for these large-scale events that she's doing. And it's like, you've never done work with like this material. And sure, this is a big sculpture that someone's like paying you a lot of money for, but like you see it in your mind and you know how to execute it. And you have help. You have me to help you execute this right now. And I'm here to back you up in every possible way. However I can help, I'm here. And it's amazing. Like, no one teaches you how to do any of these things. But if you really believe in yourself, if you really have that dream of being an artist, you fucking make that happen. And like you're saying with the video earlier, like maybe like video is not something you want to do, but you know what? You might learn a specific effect that you do within video that does this cool effect on this image. And you're like, holy shit, wait, I can just add that to one of my paintings.
Exactly.
And, or one of my wood pieces. And why have I never thought about this? Like, in that way, it's like these little things that you never knew would click start clicking, and then you start kind of like being more aware and like fine-tuning your brain to be like, oh, I can use that. Like, I'm not gonna talk about my new idea because I have a new idea. This crazy,
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good.
yeah, like this crazy weird idea, and it'll come like within the next like maybe a month. I might recreate it. But I'm gonna play with light in a way that I've never seen it before, and it's kind of crazy. It's insane, and we'll see how it comes out. I have no idea, but you know what? I don't give a shit. I'm gonna invest myself. Like, I think I was looking through my notes earlier, and I found this note that kind of says like, I forget what I wrote, why I wrote this, or something along the lines of this. It was like, I invest everything into myself. I invest everything into my art. Like, any profit that comes into my work from selling art, it goes right back into materials. Wood is super expensive. The rental time of these lasers is expensive. Like, just experimenting with this material is expensive. But it all comes back to me. I'm always investing myself. It's not just financial. I'm like spending my time going to art museums, going to the Contemporary, going to the MoMA, going to Art Basel, networking. And that is an investment into myself. Like, not just because I'm networking, but it's because I'm like surrounding myself with artists who are much better than me, and I'm keeping up to date with what's actually happening in the art world right now. Kind of like going back to what I said earlier of like, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? Like, I'm trying to go and see what everyone else's why is, and how do I add to that? And it was kind of like in the Surrealist movement, all these painters hung out together, and they didn't hate on each other. They were like, oh, cool, we're all working on the same technique. It wasn't like, oh, you're copying this and this.
Yeah,
and this. Yeah.
That's the worst.
Yeah. It's like, it's funny when people do that, but in a way, we all copy from something. Like, we're all copying from the natural world, as the philosophers say, like in the Frankfurt School of Thought. Like, I think that is Moderno, I think was his name. I haven't thought about this in a long time, but it was like, the most beautiful recreation is the recreation of nature. It's already in front of you. And the philosopher that I was talking about earlier was Immanuel Kant.
Gotcha.
And his essay on aesthetics.
Gotcha.
Yeah, incredible read.
I'm gonna have to go back and read that.
Yeah, it's maybe like, I don't know, 5, 6, maybe like 20 pages.
That's not bad.
It's super
We used
short.
to do that.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's really nice to hear what these philosophers in the Frankfurt School of Thought have to say about creation. There's one, I forget, I think it's Moderno. Yeah, he's an incredible philosopher on the beauty of music, and he has this one essay that talks about the reproduction of art. And then another philosopher also spoke on the reproduction of art and through the industrial age, and that talks about the prints and the soul of an art piece. It's reproduced, and like what happens when a piece gets reproduced, because back then it was like photography was coming out, and it was like photography and videography was seen as like the highest form of art. It was the highest connection to nature at that point, was that full recreation through the photograph. There's nothing that's going to recreate as better as that. And it just makes me think about how when all this technology comes out and like people freak out, it's like, oh, painting's going to be outdated because AI is coming. It's like, no, think back to when cameras came out. Like, they thought painting was going to be outdated then. Like, it wasn't. And anyways, back to the reproduction. I think it was the mechanical art in the industrial age. The mechanical reproduction of art in the industrial age. I think it's not Martin Buber. we'll look it up later who the philosopher is, but that I absolutely encourage that read as well.
Okay.
They talk about how the soul of a piece gets lost as it's reprinted and reprinted, and then a comment is made as to, wait, isn't the point of art to reach as many people as possible? That's why we said that photo was a beautiful and highest form of art, because it reaches so many people through this podcast, through the video. We are reaching so many people with this, and like film comes in that, and it's like you can say so much with film and reach so many people instead of just 1, 2, or 3 in a gallery or at people's home. And there's no comparison. There's different ways to impact through all forms of art. There's no point in comparing them. But yeah, it's really interesting thought process behind the reproduction through the industrial age. And then that's when like you think about like the prints, and the few prints, you start selling them for a specific amount, and limited runs of prints create like and maintain the soul and the impact of this piece, rather than reproducing art a million times, kind of like what happened with Basquiat's art, like which he hated.
Well, you dilute it, right? It's like
Diluted, yeah.
It's. I mean, props to these foundations that do good things with the artists who have passed.
Sure.
Like the Keith Haring Foundation does a lot of good things with Keith's work, but yeah, it
Right.
loses a lot of. It's weird because it's a good and bad thing. It becomes
is.
this cultural thing where it's being imprinted and printed on everything and anything that is a product that you can sell it on, right? You see Keith Haring on fucking mugs, on shirts, on everything, right? And it takes away a little bit of what it was, but then like you said, right, it's reaching this new audience who
Right.
may get inspired, who may fall in love with Keith's story, or any artist for that matter, right? And so it's the duality of everything.
Right.
It's
Nothing's black and white.
no, there's
Nothing in
always
life is ever
such
going
a
to be black and
spectrum.
white.
No. And it's finding that and understanding that nothing's ever going to be just as black and white. I mean, some things are like there's like a definite like this is yes and this is no, right? I feel like, but in the art world, I feel like that's the beauty of it, is like the spectrum is so broad. You can create anything you really want. There's no right or wrong answers. And to just give yourself that grace to be able to create from a space where, I don't know, you're not just so self-critical that you allow yourself the grace to make mistakes, like you mentioned earlier, that you trust yourself, and that you're okay sometimes with the final output not being exactly what you thought,
Right.
but it's still close. And I mean, think of it, like you said, right? You have this idea that just lives here, and your goal is to turn this idea into this real material, tangible thing that now exists that people can interact with. That's a big goal. So it's challenging. Sorry, I got sidetracked. It's challenging to make that a reality. So I like what you're saying about just, I don't know, investing everything you have into what you're trying to accomplish, and
Right.
not losing sight of that, and giving everything you have into it for whatever time frame you
Yeah,
set.
man.
Because you can't, I mean,
real.
realistically, yeah.
It's real. It can be like said, but then you have to live it. Like really fucking live it. Like give it your all. Like it's a lifestyle. Being an artist is not just a career. It's like you live your life. You live, eat, and breathe, and sleep art.
Well, yeah, what did you say? You're going to 3 galleries a week, if anything.
Yeah,
You're
3
creating
shows minimum a week.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I would say to someone up and coming is like, go to 3 shows minimum a week. Start talking to people. Start meeting other artists in your community. See what they're doing.
So, based on your time as an artist, what advice would you give to those that are, just starting their journey, who maybe aren't finding the journey as fruitful as maybe they would have anticipated going into it? What are your words for them?
Yeah, I mean, so much. I wish I would have had someone who's gone through the process as me, because, like I said earlier, I didn't go to art school. My parents weren't artists. Like, art is not something that was like in my family. Like, my brother, he became a director of culture, but that was like his own doing. He went to Germany at the same time that I came to Colombia, so we were split when I was 10 years old. He only had a small amount of impact on me through that. It would have been cooler if he was here with me, but he still had his impact. I am who I am because of all the things he taught me. And he took me to shows, and he took me to like learn drums and gallery shows when I was like a 7, 8-year-old kid. So he did what he could. and it's amazing. I'll always remember that. But if I were to say some tips to people, it'd be like definitely keep pushing, keep believing in yourself, keep working on your craft, and don't be distracted. Don't just think that being an artist is like, oh, I'm gonna network and I'm gonna go party. Don't get caught up in the partying. If you really want to do well at something, you dedicate yourself to it. Think about it as if it was your 9 to 5 job, because it is your 9 to 5 job, and a lot more than that. It is 9 to 12, 1, 2, 3 in the morning. You're going to think about art every single day of your life. I would say start going to art shows, start hanging out with artists, surround yourself with artists who are better than you, and try to learn about different techniques. Visit museums, go to take trips for art, like go to Art Basel. That is a business trip as a professional artist. Learn. I mean, this is not something that's going to get you excited about the art world, but you are a business. Learn about your business taxes. Learn about establishing your LLC. And then with your LLC, have your bank account, your business account, and then run just your expenses through that account, and then you'll be able to do your taxes much easier at the end of the year. Learn all about that. You are a business. You're a business entity. Treat yourself with that respect, because this is what you're doing.